Assalamu alaikum, family. Peace be unto you. You're tuned into the Sajdah channel, and today we're going to talk about the chains that are still binding us as business people. See, oftentimes we think of freedom as the removal of the chains, but in essence, in business, those chains become policies, unfair policies, gatekeepers, monopolies, big box companies that are preventing us access to our economic sovereignty. So we're going to kick this off today and talk about this, broadcasting right here live from native Omaha days where the Sajdah Enterprises movement all began. We'll see y'all in a few. Be a friend, tell a friend, and I'll be right back after a few short commercials and a beautiful prayer.
O Allah, guide me among those whom Thou hast guided aright, and preserve me among those whom Thou hast preserved, and befriend me among those whom Thou hast befriended. Bless me in whatsoever Thou dost grant me, and deliver me from the evil of what Thou hast judged. Surely Thou judgest, and none can judge against Thee. And he whom Thou befriendest is not disgraced. Blessed art Thou, O Lord, and exalted be Thee above what they set up besides Thee. I bear witness, nothing deserved to be served besides Thee. And I bear witness that Muhammad is Thy servant and apostle. Amen.
The Honorable Elijah Muhammad, who in my judgment is the master historian, taught us that of all our studies, history is the most attractive, and it is best qualified to reward the researcher. History is most attractive. Why should history be most attractive? Because history is the recorded time of the human family in its struggle to obstacles. There is no life that is without struggle. The Holy Quran teaches us that man, meaning man and woman, is made to face difficulties. And after difficulty comes ease. But it is history that guides us through difficulty. For if you know how people who had difficulty yesterday got through, and if your difficulty is somewhat similar, then today we also can get through if we follow the guidance of history. This is why Carter G. Woodson and many of our black giants fought for black people to know our history. Because in not knowing our history, we don't have a guide. And without a guide, we are lost. No wonder the Bible...
Assalamu alaikum, family. Peace be unto you. We are live from Native Omaha Days here in Omaha, Nebraska. Excuse my plastic water. Y'all know I hate plastic water bottles, but excuse me for this. I know it's coffee talk, but I ain't got no coffee. Oh, man. I have something that's burning, excuse me, that's been burning inside of me actually for a few years. But that has bubbled up in the last few days. Okay. And it's like everywhere I go, I see it and it's hitting me, and Allah is like, let's deal with this. You know, we often think about, excuse me, freedom as freedom from chains. But in business, those chains become policies. Those chains become people who manipulate the market to keep us out, gatekeepers, big box companies that manipulate the barriers to entry when it comes to us in business. They are impacting our sovereignty as a people. Excuse me, y'all, as I get this download. I made a few notes, but it's coming in so fast. I'm right here in Native Omaha. I'm a Native Omaha, and I'm at the Native Omaha Day Festival this weekend. And I was sitting in my cousin's restaurant yesterday. So shout out to my cousins, Antoine and Vershawn Jackson, who own the Fair Deal Cafe. It's a historic location, a historic space. And we started talking about some of the anti-competitive practices that they are experiencing as business people. And then my brother, shout out to my brother, John Nair Jr., he brought up, we were standing in front of the Elks Hall yesterday. He said, nobody's working, everybody's hustling. And I said, well, because there's no jobs. So see, our parents worked at their same jobs for 20, 30 years. That don't exist no more. So people are doing for self and attempting to do for self. But there's gatekeepers. There's barriers. There is issues. And we want to talk about that. Let me just break this down a little bit. What am I talking about when I'm talking about antitrust laws and anti-competitive behavior? I've experienced this so many times firsthand in business. It's a blessing if you experience it in your face. Like some of the stuff we went through in Maryland in building the hospital. Some of the threat, they got down to the point where they just started threatening us. So some of the threats, some of those barriers, all of this is to keep us as Black people from being economically sovereign and creating generational wealth. And let me tell you something. If you are stopping somebody from making money for their family, for taking care of themselves, if you're stopping us from helping one another, for looking out from one another, because nobody does any of what we're doing alone. If you're stopping that, you're demonic. And I believe that today we got a God on the scene that ain't standing for it no more. You tore us down during Reconstruction, but now a change gonna come, and it done came. And so now we got to start uniting and standing up. And we're going to talk about that a little bit today. But it's a blessing when it's in your face, when people are trying to block you and stop you in your face, because then you got an obvious target. But there's so many of us that are operating in an illusion, and we can't figure out why we can't make more money, why we can't do certain things. Some of us are working jobs 90, 80, 100 hours damn near every 2 weeks. But we'll never get to that aspect of generational wealth that we need to get to at that rate. See, we need money. We got work to do. We need cash flow. And you see going across the screen down here, book Sajdah Wendy Muhammad. Book me and I will, or just email me. Go to that website, booksajdahwendymuhammad.com if you've never been there. I will help you strategize on how to create these different business models. But let me tell you something. It's going to take a collaborative effort. You're going to need help. And anybody out there who's looking down on somebody because they are pooling their resources with them, or because they need help, because they need something, because they're asking for customers, we have to stop that right now as a people. Right now as a people. Support your local owned Black businesses. Support your family members that are going into business doing something for themselves. Because guess what? You might work your job your whole life, and when you die, ain't nobody gonna think about you. Nobody's gonna know you. Your children ain't gonna have anything. Let's build legacy. And one of the ways that we need to build legacy is building institutions, businesses that we can pass on and that can make an impact. Okay? So let's talk about these antitrust laws that were created to prevent monopolies and ensure fair competition. Now, I learned about these back in business. Matter of fact, I learned about it in high school. And I realized that when these laws were created, they weren't thinking about us. I get that. We were 1/3, 3/5 less than a person, bred like animals. I get it. When y'all created this, y'all weren't thinking about us. But if you wasn't thinking about us, then just don't think about us now. If you don't want to enforce the laws that are on the books, just leave us alone. You don't like us, leave us alone. Stop stealing our content. Stop taking our ideas. Stop taking over our festivals. Go create your own stuff. Oh, I forgot. You can't do that because you're a made man and not a created man. Here's the antitrust laws, and I'm saying that we have to start sitting down with our local officials, local elected officials who work for us. Okay, let's sit down and create some support and some lobbying around enforcement of these antitrust, anti-competitive behaviors that are severely impacting Black-owned businesses around the country. Around the country. All right. Let's start talking to and sitting down with our elected officials and saying, what can we do about this? What do you plan on doing about this? Let's put these agendas out on the table before we vote for somebody. Let's make a decision. Where do they stand on our independent economic development as a Black person? How do they support us as Black-owned businesses? Don't stand up over us and call us and tell us you're our elected official, you're this, you're that, and you're not helping us become economically sovereign, period. And so I think when we're moving into these new election cycles, we need to start having a conversation about this. Where do you stand on this? I get it that there's been a lot of human rights things and we all concerned about that. But I think this time, let's focus on where these officials stand when it comes to helping you and I have access to a free market. And in many cases, let me tell you this, in many cases, a lot of us are not even trying to access their markets. A lot of us don't even try to get a government contract. A lot of us are not trying to do big business. We're just trying to do business with one another. But we run into gatekeepers, we run into policies, we run into people who manipulate the law and manipulate things that stop us. All right, so you got the Sherman Act that was created in 1890. Now, judging by the date, at that time we were 25 years up from slavery. They probably wasn't thinking about us. Fact about it, we moved out under the auspices of the Sherman Act and those acts that occurred during Reconstruction, the Reconstruction Act. And we started businesses. We have more Black millionaires, I was just reading the other day, in New York during Reconstruction than there is today. So we moved out. Over 100 Black towns and Black settlements around the United States, including right here in Nebraska. Most of the Black people that migrated during that first wave of the Great Migration here to these parts of Nebraska came here as business owners. It wasn't until the second migration, Great Migration, or the second wave of the Great Migration that we came up here to work in the factories, the stockyards, and things like that. But during that first wave, we came up here as business people. That is why many of us, as we walk in the deuce, we're talking about all the Black-owned business. These were generational businesses that were passed down. And then anti-competitive and antitrust practices, and in some cases downright terrorism, destroyed these businesses. So the Sherman Act, which was placed into law in 1890, was designed to prohibit monopolistic behavior and conspiracy to restrain trade. I'm going to say that again. Prohibit monopolistic behavior and conspiracy to restrain trade. Now, I cover this in detail in my new book. It's called The Art and Science of Business. You actually can go to that website, theartandscienceofbusiness.com. Put your name in there and let me know if you're interested in the book. This book right here, it's been how many years in? About 10 years in the making. You don't listen. I don't think there's ever been anything put together like this before. I'm gonna say that. I'm gonna go out there on that limb. I thank Allah for helping me to put this together the way it's coming together. I thank Allah for it. But the Sherman Act, 1890, was designed to prohibit monopolistic behavior and conspiracy to restrain trade. We've all witnessed the monopolistic behavior. We've all been victims of conspiracies to restrain our ability to enter into trade and commerce. Y'all hear me talk about on this show all the time, how we experienced so much of that in Maryland when we were building the hospital. Then there's the Clayton Act, okay, 1914. Again, not likely thinking about us, which addresses price discrimination and exclusive dealings. Now, they try to address that a little bit in the healthcare industry with the Sunshine Act, but it exists in every industry still to this day. Pricing being different based upon your zip code, based upon the color of your skin. Most of us don't even realize how people handle us differently in business based on how we look, how we believe, who we are, where we come from. This has got to stop. And let me say this to the collective, broader group that we call America. Do you know what you would do for your economy if you open up trade and commerce and allow us to do business in an uninhibited way? See, the dollar's falling. The economy is crumbling. But do you know what you would do for your economy if you let us in? Or, that's for those of us who feel like we need to be let in. Do you know what you would do for your economy if you just left us alone? Because we here. If you just left us alone, take your proverbial foot off of our business neck and watch your economy soar. Watch the supernatural growth that happens in your economy if you just start helping us to enforce these laws that you got on the book, that I know when y'all made them, y'all wasn't thinking about us, but we here now. We got the blue passport. So that's the Clayton Act, 1914, which addresses price discrimination and exclusive dealings. Then there's the FTC, or the Federal Trade Commission, which is also 1914. There's some interesting history around this, around the Titanic and around all of the establishment of all of this stuff. But the FTC, 1914, was established to protect against deceptive practices. What was the goal? To ensure open markets. That's all we're asking you to do. Get out of the way and stop blocking us access to open markets. We don't need a gatekeeper. We don't need to go through you. We are the most investment-worthy, creative people on the planet. All culture and almost all business around the world originates from the little nucleus right here in America, the little Masonic group of people, the Messiah, as a collective, as I'm calling us, right here in America, who are brought here in chains to America. And our very survival is a spiritual growth, a spiritual fuel. There's got to be something behind it, because we should have been dead and gone a long time ago, but we still here. So it's something special about us. We as a collective are a messianic people. And everybody around the world either wants to be with us or wants to be like us, but you want to control our culture, our money, and our sovereignty. And these are the things that now we have to begin to address. We have to begin to address this, because you ain't got no jobs for us. You done put all these things in place. We got people getting out of prison. Shout out to all my cousins who came home and who was here, Native Omaha Day. You lock us up. We get out. People got felonies. They can't get a so-called job. What do they have to do? They got to go into business for themselves. You give us these jobs, you pay us a small amount per hour, and you expect us to have the finer things in life. Y'all know we like the finer things in life. We need businesses. And let me tell you something. Most of us as Black people are conservative. We ain't trying to break no laws. We ain't trying to do nothing crazy. We just want to make money to feed our family, to look good, smell good, ride nice, and take care of ourselves. That's really what we want. All right, let's talk about how anti-competitive practices hurt Black entrepreneurs. Y'all all right? If y'all enjoying this, hit that super chat button. Go to Sajdah Enterprises, promote the effort. I'm going to keep putting this stuff together so we can be free economically. Y'all saw that statue I put on the front of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad house? That was a download. with the 7 members of the African diaspora touching the cracked atom, which represents Master Sajdah Muhammad, which is how Allah intervened in our affairs by coming in the person of Master Sajdah Muhammad. That's a whole nother story. We're going to get to that, and that's in the book too. Let's talk about how anti-competitive practices hurt Black entrepreneurs. I think you've heard a lot of my stories, so I'm going to spare y'all that today. I'm going to just break this down so that as we're talking about this over the course of the next few weeks, and when you see it in the book, you kind of know where it's coming from. Okay? Thank you, Sister Betty. Despite these laws, Black business owners continue to suffer from systemic anti-competitive behaviors. Let me say this. How many of y'all out there know that you know more on your job than the person sitting next to you? Some of y'all so cold on y'all jobs, y'all keep these companies running. I went downtown last week. I was doing some work. I had to do something with the city of Chicago. And I had to go up to a particular office, and there was a brother in there. And when you saw him, you would never think that he knew anything. He had dreads. He had tattoos. Looked like he had been kicking it the night before. That brother got on the computer, solved the problem, handled his business. People was in his line. You are a business in and of yourself. But see, somebody told you that because you don't look a certain way, you can't go into business. Because you're a certain age, they told you, you can't go into business. Stop it. Stop counting them years. Stop letting your age. Let me break this down to y'all. Retirement, age discrimination. Y'all do know that came from slavery, right? Because once you got to the point in your age, or as you aged out, then you became of less value on the plantation. You could pick less cotton. You could shuck less corn. You could do less from a physical labor standpoint. Many of the slave owners brought you in the house when you got older and let you run the house as a house manager, or to be a preacher or a consultant to the other slaves. But the value that you had when it came to contributing the most had begun to diminish, because there was no value placed on your intellectual capacity that added value to the operations of that plantation. All right. Then we went into the Industrial Revolution. And during the Industrial Revolution, where things were very labor intensive, people were working in factories. So what happened? They said, well, we're going to tell people they can stop working at a certain age. They can retire. They can just go lay down and die, because we don't really need them anymore. And we'll give them a few dollars. We're going to create this system that they're only going to be able to live off of a bare minimum, because we don't really care. They can make $600 a month. They can just go on somewhere. Meanwhile, their older people, their elderly, are advisors. Shout out to Warren Buffett, Omaha native, right here in Omaha, advising, guiding people well into his 80s and 90s. See, that's what they do with their people. And they are guiding their young people on how to operate business. There's no racial discrimination. There's no age discrimination like there is in our community. Because they also enacted Willie Lynch, which made us think that old people and young people can't get along with each other. Let me tell you a secret. If you're a young person and you got an older person in your life that's giving you game, it gives you advantage among the young people. And if you're an older person and you got a young person in your life giving you game, it gives you an advantage over the older people. You're going to dress a little better. You're going to be a little flyer. I hope y'all understand what I'm saying. So during the Industrial Revolution, this is what happened. They said, okay, you can retire at 65. And if you're lucky, we'll let you get out of here early. And then what we have done is we have rolled that into pop culture. So we have to stop doing that. We have to become more collective as a community. That aspect of Willie Lynch, where it's the old against the young, the light against the dark, the tall against the short, the northern people versus the southern people. We're always finding ways to divide ourselves now because the brainwashed have become the brainwashers. So we have to stop this. If we just collectively come together on a small basis, we can start your business, we can start your business, we can get you off the ground. I told y'all about when I was studying the builder of 4847 South Woodlawn Avenue, which is now the Elijah Muhammad House, the former National House of the Nation of Islam. I was studying, he was a Jewish Mason, and he had friends who had companies that were started in the early 1900s that still exist today. You know how they did it? Through cooperative economics. They sat with each other on a weekly basis and supported one another. So the good years are on the manifest for coming to the house with the Libbies. The Spiegels are on the manifest. And some of the names on the manifest are founders of companies that exist now over 100 years later. We can do the same thing, but we got to stop being divided. Stop talking about your brother and sister. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad says it like this: stop wanton criticism of everything Black owned. All right. So now, this is the way we are impacted by these antitrust laws. There's contract exclusions. I just bid on something this summer, it was actually early in the year, and instead of and what the city did was they made myself and my business partner a finalist for one of the contracts. And I don't know how much information or what data they gained from us. And then they decided to just cancel the project altogether. And so now we're in talks with them about doing some other things. But contract exclusions. Major firms dominate supply chains, locking out Black-owned suppliers through nepotism and legacy contracts. How many of us are being blocked from city contracts, from access to purchasing land because of legacy contracts? That's one way. The other way is price fixing and bid rigging. In industries like construction, healthcare, closed networks manipulate prices and bids to keep Black firms from winning projects. I've been a victim of this many times, and I'm sure you have too. These are the things that we are going to have to start addressing as we move forward. But first, we got a lot of work ahead of us. But first, let's address our unity. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad says 6 or 8 of you go into business, pool your resources. 6 or 8 of you pool your resources and go into business for yourself. Go into business for yourself. Okay? Then there's redlining in investment capital. We talk about that all the time on the show, right? Venture capital and bank funding that are funneled toward a small group of connected firms while Black innovators are denied access. Then there's tech platforms where there's monopolies. There's a lot of talk now about technology and how technology is racially biased, about how some of this AI technology is designed to take our ideas and manipulate it and utilize it for somebody else. Let me see. I have a statistic I wrote here that I wanted to tell y'all. Less than 1.3% of venture capital goes to Black entrepreneurs. Did y'all know that? despite Black consumers contributing over $1.6 trillion in buying power annually. That's from McKinsey. I also made another note. I said, but it's not just economic. And I know a lot of people, when we start talking about money, they want to remove spirit, but this is not just economic. Because it was the spirituality and the spiritual warfare that they used to manipulate us and put us in this position. These practices violate the divine principle of equitable access. And I'm calling equitable access a divine principle. Equitable access. The Holy Quran and the Bible both command just dealings and fair measures in trade. So if you are denying a group of people or anyone equitable access, you can't call yourself a Christian. You can't call yourself a Muslim. You can't call yourself a God-fearing person. Because that's a divine law where you're blocking somebody from sustaining themselves, which means you want them to go from their inability to sustain themselves to asking you to help sustain them. Here's a verse from the Holy Quran. That's Surah 83, 1 through 3. I pulled this out this morning. Woe to those who give less than due, who when they take a measure from people, take in full. But if they give by measure or weight to them, they cause loss. We talked about construction and public contracts, disparities in government procurement that keep Black contractors at 2 to 3% at major city contracts. Only 2 to 3% of those, I think it's less than that, but they say 2 to 3% of government contracts are given to Black people. You can't say we don't apply. You can't say we don't qualify. Then you got healthcare networks. Black-owned clinics are often shut out of insurance networks, unable to negotiate fair reimbursements. That's a space I'm working with FSIC, where we are really working to address the anti-competitive issues that are violations that are going on in the healthcare space. But it ain't the only industry. You got tech and e-commerce, Black-owned products get deplatformed or buried in search results, reducing our visibility, shadow banning. There's redlining in franchises, where we face higher barriers to owning franchises due to prejudiced site selections, financing. We got to deal with this. Now, this is what I want to see. Targeted investigations into racialized market practices. Okay, I want to see the DOJ, the FTC, our public officials spearheading targeted investigations into racialized marketing practices. But I think we have to have some kind of repository or some way in which we're reporting this. We either need to have a central repository where we report these behaviors that we then can redirect towards the elected officials in a particular area, or we all got to get busy with reporting to these elected officials. We need to talk about the mechanism, but I think targeted investigations into these practices need to happen, because once we start having a collective where people are reporting these things, you got to stop being scared, y'all. Then we can then say, look, this is a trend. We see this particular company or this particular individual doing this in 7 or 8 cities or throughout the United States of America, and then it can be addressed as a whole. Because we need more antitrust and anti-competitive attorneys excuse me, to help us with that. Sometimes when you are a rugged individual and you out here on your own, it's kind of hard. But if we come together, which is something that we're doing with the FSIC, Financial Services Inclusion Coalition, that's what that stands for. I'll put the link in the chat. We are working to create a collective repository. We've got letters that we've written. We're working on a letter that we're going to write to the president, and we're going to have people sign it based on these different issues that are that we're facing. We just want free trade. I think we need stronger representation in policy enforcement. I know everybody's saying that DEI was a blow to this initiative. I think that that's arguable. There's arguments on both sides, which we can have that conversation on the show. Some people say DEI was not benefiting us. Some people say that it has now given free rein to those that practice these anti-competitive and antitrust behaviors. That has to be studied a little bit. And we need more legal resources that are willing to help us fight these kind of things. You all saw just a few weeks ago, I had brother from Acres Home in Houston, Texas on the show fighting environmental issues, environmental racism, if you will. And I don't even think we realize that here the brother is fighting environmental injustice in an area that was created called Acres Home back in the 1800s because Black people were not allowed to buy property in Houston. And then in the very space where we were allowed to buy property, it gets poisoned and we're dying just from living there on a Black settlement. Make it make sense. This is my call to action to us. I want us to start documenting our violations. Record and report anti-competitive experiences to the FTC, to your local officials. When I get back to Chicago, we're gonna sit down and talk about how to create some kind of repository so that we can start addressing these issues in collective, but you need to start recording, reporting, and reporting, okay? Push for racial equity. Stop being scared. I know we all are suffering from a colonialized mind where we want to be the only Black person. We want to be the first Black person. We want to be the exclusive person. We want to be that one person that they liked. I know, y'all. But that's an illusion. You can be a good person and happen to be the only person of color in the room or the only person that looks like you in the room. But don't seek to be that. Don't push down other Black people, and don't shy away from pooling your resources and uniting just because you want to be the only one. And I think we need to create an antitrust watch group. I really do. I think we need an antitrust watch group. So we're going to work on putting that together. It's not just about markets, it's about economic sovereignty. I'm just making sure I went through all my notes with you. This is our divine right to thrive, y'all. We cannot be free if we are not allowed to compete in this market. Okay, family. I got that part of it out. We're going to be digging into this a little bit more. So with that, family, listen, I wish each and every one of you more goodness than you've ever experienced or imagined. Let's make today a day where we're focused on collaborating, focused on supporting one another, focused on helping one another, focused on loving one another. If we already got an enemy trying to keep us from becoming economically sovereign, let's not become an enemy to one another. If we got a big op, don't make a whole bunch of little ops. Support somebody. What can you do to help somebody get to that next level? You know, I'll tell you something. One of the prayers that I was just telling my former business partner this the other day, and he was telling me about somebody he saw that won a $20 million contract. And he called me because he said, man, that need to be your contract. I said, you know what? I said, I pray for that because Allah knows. And I told him, I said, let me get a $20 million contract. I said, bro, I got you. I said, I got you. I'm going to be sharing that reward with my family and friends, not in a, MC Hammer type of way. Shout out to MC Hammer, not hating on you, but not in that kind of way. In a way of giving qualified people contracts and opportunities. Let's open another hospital. Let's open another grocery store. I want a grocery store so bad. I just was thinking about that the other day. I said, what do you want to do? I want a grocery store with good, wholesome, clean food in it. We're going to get there. Anyway, family, support the movement, like and subscribe to the channel if you're not already doing that. Be a friend, tell a friend, and let's fight for our right to have access to the free market. Thank you, Sister Betty. I appreciate that. But I pray to Allah, I say, you can bless me because I'm going to be your conduit. I'm not going to be stingy. I've never been that. Whatever millions I get that come to me, I'm always sharing and opening and seeing what I can do. A lot of people don't like it, but that's okay. They'll be all right. But there's a lot of people who I can bless. And that's the goal and that's the plan. Anyway, what else I got to tell y'all? I think that's it. That's it for today. So if you're in the Native Omaha Festival and you're here in Omaha, stop down to the Deuce and Lake. 24th and Lake, we're going to do a revived business breakfast this morning. Breakfast, lunch, 11 a.m. And then I'll be at the Great Plains Black Museum. Let's learn some history. I'll tell you this one thing. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad said that there are some people that have the gift of prophecy. And then there are others who learn to prophesize through the careful study of history. All right. So support the completion of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad House. We got some big things in the works for you. Man, so much I could say. All right, family, I'm going to go. I'm going to get out of here before I start spilling beans that I ain't ready to spill. Anyway, support the network, Sajdah Enterprises on Cash App. You can Zelle us. It's all going across the bottom. If you want to book me for a session, we can do that too. Okay? The way to do that is across the bottom as well. All right. Peace and blessings, family. Love you all. Stay tuned for this commercial, and we'll see you all soon, inshallah.
The Honorable Elijah Muhammad, who in my judgment is the master historian, taught us that of all our studies, history is the most attractive, and it is best qualified to reward the researcher. History is most attractive. Why should history be most attractive? Because history is the recorded time of the human family in its struggle to overcome obstacles. There is no life without struggle. The Holy Quran teaches us that man, meaning man and woman, is made to face difficulties. And after difficulty comes ease. But it is history that guides us through difficulty. For if you know how people who had difficulty yesterday got through, and if your difficulty is somewhat similar, then today we also can get through if we follow the guidance of history. This is why Carter G. Woodson and many of our black giants fought for black people to know our history. Because in not knowing our history, we don't have a guide. And without a guide, we are lost. No wonder the